Oh, hey there. Today we're going to be doing an oil change on a 2022 Honda Africa Twin. It is the manual, not the DCT model. For my specific bash plate, you'll need a 5mm hex key and a 6mm hex key. For the two oil drain plugs, you will need a 12mm socket or wrench. For the filter, I have a K&N KN204-1. That should be the appropriate replacement oil filter. For the oil itself, you'll need 4.2 quarts of 4-stroke 10W30, full synthetic. One of the first things you should do is warm up your engine, let it run for about 10 minutes or so, and then let it sit. What that does is it suspends particles that have rested overnight into the oil itself so that when you drain it, all those impurities come out with it. So I already did that, I already ran it, and it's been sitting for about 10 minutes. Now the oil will be hot, just don't burn yourself. I have an aftermarket bash plate from Alt-Rider, and it requires a 5mm, which there are 4 bolts, 2 here and 2 here. The other 2 are 6mm, which are located here and here. I'll set that off to the side, and then we can assess what's going on. On the 2022 Africa Twin, there are 2 oil drain plugs. One located here, and another located there. Once you remove those, the oil will flow, so you gotta get your drip pan. Before putting in your oil plug, you should clean around the surface to get any dirt, grime that may have slipped by. Once the oil is fully drained, each one of these plugs has a crush washer. You should replace it every oil change, but I do not have one, so I'm going to reuse mine. Once you have both in, the torque spec for each one of these is 22 foot-pounds. I do not have a torque wrench, so I'm going to use my calibrated elbow. And that should do it. Next is the oil filter, which is just right in the front here. This oil filter is in a very awkward position to get it off by hand, so an extra tool may be required for your situation. Make sure that you have the oil ring that comes with the oil filter in place. It can get stuck up there, and you can have a double O-ring and it will cause a leak. Just like the oil drain plugs, you want to clean off the area so it has a nice clean surface. Also, with the new plug, you should use fresh oil, dip your finger in it,
and lubricate the O-ring so that it doesn't bind, pinch, and it comes off easier when it's time to do another change. I'm going to install it not pre-filled, but if your vehicle can be pre-filled, I would recommend it. Get that on there, hand tight. As tight as you can get it.
Once you have your oil drain plugs and your oil filter reinstalled, you're going to need to put oil in the engine. So this is the oil fill right here. Take that out. Use a funnel. This funnel's too big, so I'm gonna have to use a little adapter made out of some cardboard. Pour your oil in. Once you've poured in the required amount of oil, just go ahead and plug that hole up. And then you run the engine for a little bit, wait, and then measure it with the dipstick that is right here. It should be within the range that is indicated on the stick itself. If when you were pouring and you got some on the engine, just go ahead, get some shop towels and clean that up. You will more than likely spill, and it's not that big of a deal. Just make sure you clean it up. When you're checking your oil, it should be between these two dashes. For this particular model, you do not screw it in when you put it in. You just touch the threads and then pull it right out. My oil is coming out to about right there at the tip of my nail. You won't be able to see it because it's too clear, which is a good thing. Be sure it's completely debris free and reinsert and screw in. This engine has 2 bleeder valves. You should check them periodically. One is right here. It could be tucked away back behind the battery box. And another one is underneath the left fairing right here. So if you see oil in them, just like this one has quite a bit of oil in it, make sure you take off this plug and drain it. It's gonna go everywhere. You just gotta accept it. Looks like a butt plug. Once you've put in your oil, made sure all your levels are good, and nothing's leaking, you can go ahead and put on your bash plate again. Before you do that, it's nice to check if there is any other leaks from any other spots on the engine. Mine looks pretty good. While it is dirty, overall, it looks in good shape. Once you got all your bolts hand tight in there, making sure that they're all running smoothly, you can then go ahead with your tools and tighten them down. that is how you perform an oil change for a 2022 Africa Twin. All the tools used were in my little toolkit that I keep right here. So if I needed to do this on the side of the road, I could. That's it for this one. Have a good one.
Great success, so